All right, it's Jay. I'm back again for another one, and tonight I have with me.
It's Drew. How you doing today, man?
What's up, man?
People gonna start to think I'm just like this is just a show we do. Like it's just us. With the amount of shows that we put out off of what was intended to be one episode, we put out a plethora, like a variety, and now we're back at it again. So to all my podcast partners and other people who I do shows with, I'm not cheating on you with Jay. I promise.
I'm
I,
just,
I am. I am. I'm not gonna lie. This is something we don't know what it is yet, but something's happening here.
yeah, we have such great conversations, and they range from one thing to another. We're both pretty well versed, and I think we both just like to talk to each other. So I think
Yeah,
that goes a long way, and it's always fun working on shows that I do with you. You know, you
yeah.
definitely add to the show, and I really appreciate you.
Nah, yeah. I definitely like being here. So what we talking about today, man?
Man, we're gonna touch on this Blade situation. Even from the beginning, I was thinking like, I thought it would be hard for the next person who is gonna try to touch that IP because they would have such big shoes to fill, and that's before it was any announcements of who and all that kind of stuff. But just the fact that one day they're gonna have to go back and touch this IP, and woe was the person who have to mess with it. Short of Wesley Snipes getting back in there and kind of righting the wrong of what was considered, one of the worst Blade movies, which was Blade 3, which was a hot mess and a story within itself. But since then, Academy Award winner, I guess two-time award winner Mahershala Ali, he did a cool thing where he kind of had his credit and he tapped the shoulders of the powers that be and was like, hey, I would like to play this role. I'd like to be the next Blade. And
Yeah,
of course, because they have, their right mind, they said, yeah, we accept. And they probably went out of order of how they normally do things. But, who's to say how things are going to happen in Hollywood? Sometimes, closed mouths don't get fed and things just kind of happen. Things that's been planned for a long time never see the light of day. And some stuff that was just a casual conversation becomes reality. So that's just kind of how stuff kind of goes.
yeah. I was surprised for years there were talks, and there have been other people who've stepped into the space of saying that they wanted to do it. And I think it was you're right, it was perfect timing because Mahershala was coming off of getting a bunch of awards.
Like for the Green Book.
Where he's traveling with the dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not my favorite movie, but not. And I don't think it's anybody's favorite movie where it's the weird white savior kind of movie where
The powers that be ate it up.
yeah.
Of course.
And it's such and I know we always get sidetracked, but the messed up thing is what the Green Book was to give such like that could have been such a great movie celebrating a storyline of someone traveling, a family traveling. It could have been a positive black movie
Yeah.
about traveling and without the trauma. Like you could maybe put a twinge of, this is why we have to use the Green Book, you know what I'm saying? But like it could have been a real good, funny comedy. It could have been anything, but we wasted the title because this was a publication. For people who don't know, this was a publication that came out with a list of safe places for black people to travel,
Right.
where you can stay. Because there were and still are a ton of sundown towns where if you're black and you get caught in it, you're not leaving that town. You're either going to be incarcerated or beat or killed. And so we needed safe travel, and so it was like a yellow. I was about to say Yellow Pages. No one has a frame of reference for that nowadays. So it's like Google. It was like Google for black people. and yeah, but yeah, Mahershala, one of the best actors in the game right now.
Yeah.
He has a dimension that he covers in a space of emotion where I would have to say he's there. He reminds me of a zone that Denzel was in at one point, where you just like it's Denzel,
Right.
but you enjoy it anyway. Like I know it's Mahershala in every movie I watch. I'm like, it's him,
Right.
but I enjoy it still.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he's that good. You get lost in their characters and stuff, it's a rare thing when you see it done that well, and he's definitely got that thing. So when you heard that he was announced, they announced it in the Comic-Con, I believe. they have like, I guess in Hall H, they had Marvel and they make the announcements and stuff. And it was announced in 2019. That's when he went in there in the room and he put the cap on that says Blade. And that's how they kind of ended the evening, with that reveal of him walking up and being announced as the new Blade.
I'll put to you like this. It's like, when it comes to our characters, because Blade is a weird character in the sense that, yes, Blade gets recognition for being the stepping stone for Marvel to say, oh, we can create an MCU because this can make money. But also Blade, how I witnessed Blade, it had nothing to do with Marvel. It had nothing to do with comic books. Wesley Snipes was the man at the time.
Yeah. And
this was almost the tail end of Wesley being the man. Because Wesley was like early 90s. He was the man. Mm-hmm. But when he did the Blade movies, it was like, so for anyone else to be announced as Blade, it was going to be a little bit awkward. Yeah. I can't think of, there was a few people that I remember names being tossed around about who could be, something else. But sometimes when it comes to who, there's a handful of things that came out when we were younger that they're going to be sacred to us, man. Like, Jamie Foxx. I told you about this the time I had this conversation with the creator of Spawn. Mm-hmm. And he was saying like, yeah, man, I'm talking to Jamie Foxx about bringing it back out. In my mind, I'm like, it does not work for me, because I still want it to be, what's his name? Michael Jai White, Yeah. Like some characters are just stuck in our, so Mahershala, if anybody can pull it off, he's young enough still. I think he can bring a deeper vampire side to it, mm-hmm. and make it more about being a vampire flick than even Wesley could. Wesley was great off of Wesley's star power. Right. But when it comes to what MCU is trying to do a little bit more of, trying to create more dialogue and trying to have more thought-provoking and less action, I think Mahershala could be it, but it's still, my reaction was like, it ain't. My initial reaction was like, nah, it ain't gonna work, because it ain't Wesley. It'll work if you put Wesley in it,
right?
Wesley's son, and he's handing it down or something like that. Yeah, but it does not work in any way, shape, form, or fashion. As that's what I thought. That was my initial thought. What was yours?
I was like, how is this possibly going to happen? Especially when pretty much Blade, for the most part, for the viewing public, was a blank slate. And Wesley imprinted himself, swag, his attitude, mannerisms and all that kind of stuff, his martial arts and all that kind of stuff, just the whole thing. It was just so Wesley. It's almost like, Wesley, just the only thing different he did is put fangs in. It seemed like he would almost dress like that and act like that anyway, because he didn't play. He's a martial artist and he respects the Asian culture and stuff like that. So he has a whole bunch of stuff that really he lent to that movie, because I think that, as far as like the director, that was like his first like major film and stuff. And I think the writers wasn't like well-known writers and stuff. So I think a lot of that stuff, like black folks usually do with these kind of movies like Bad Boys and different things like that, when they don't quite write for us, or they plan for somebody else to be in it or something like that. And then the talent goes in there and just kind of riff off of stuff and just kind of get free reign to do what they want to. And then it gives that movie and those characters this life that wasn't normally there. And then when they get a bigger budget and they make the second one, they get these quote unquote great writers and all this other kind of stuff. And then the life is kind of gone for those characters. I noticed that in Bad Boys 2 compared to Bad Boys 1. I noticed that in Blade 2 versus Blade 1, even though Blade 2 had more action, it was more free to do what it wanted because everything was established in the first one. So it had a different kind of breath to it. But that was more Wesley than it was Blade. And if they would have tried to do Blade like Blade was in the comics, I don't think it would have done as well. I think Wesley really imprinted on that character. So my first thought was like, okay, this guy that deserves to have these cool leading roles and these kind of gigs, this is great for him. Like, I'm happy for him. He's been in the game for a long time. He's done so many different movies and he paid his dues. So does he deserve to be able to tap somebody on the shoulder and pull the card and be like, hey, I want to be this character? Yes, he should be. He should have a big franchise and stuff like that. But Blade,
yeah,
like that's a whole other thing, man. Blade
is someone else's thing. Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to mess with that. Some of those characters and some of those roles that people play, those are mic drops. It's just done. You know,
yeah.
like
Black Panther.
Exactly. I was about to say we're going through that right now.
Which we're excited for, and that's coming up. But you know, speaking of Wesley Snipes, it's well known that Wesley wanted T'Chaka. Like he wanted to bring the Black Panther franchise there. And I was listening to an old interview where he was saying, you know, and so at this point, Marvel isn't this connected thing. Mm-mm. So in his mind, he's like, I do this Blade thing and I can bring Black Panther to the screen. And then Blade became a thing where it's like, yeah, you could never be Black Panther. So when the Black Panther thing, multiple people have pitched Black Panther over the years.
Right.
And once Black Panther finally hit, you know, with a home, with a decent script and a decent, you know, group behind it, and they knew it was going to happen, Wesley wanted back in again. And they were like, you're Blade now. So I think that's probably one of the more crazy things to think about is that, like, what does it feel like for him to be kind of like, oh, you can't be in the MCU, you can't be in these different places, in this genre that you're a part, that you built, and we're going to go ahead and take your role and reimagine it around someone else. And I wonder, because I heard Mahershala say that, like, his big thing was when he was out promoting, you know, he had his own movie on Apple TV just recently. So when he was promoting Swan Song was around the time of the announcement. And so people were asking him about owning up to and living up to the Blade thing. And he says, only thing I can hope to do is earn Wesley's respect and earn, you know, so he was going into this saying, I want to only work on something that's going to do Wesley proud. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how much that played a role in what we're building up to our conversation with now. Like how much of, because they were giving Mahershala, apparently they've given him a lot of say in the making of this new movie.
Yeah, and well, even the way the whole thing even kind of came up is almost kind of I think it's a situation where he's more driving the situation. Okay, I'll say he's in the front seat, so he's not driving, but he is, you know, he has say on the direction of things. I think he has more so than somebody else would. I think he has more say than, say, Robert Downey Jr. would have had going into Iron Man. Iron Man was a suit that he had to get into. It's like, this is how it's going to be. Just don't make our insurance go up. If we could go have you in this movie without an incident happening, then that's the first hurdle we're trying to go through. And then once he got comfortable and stuff started working out for him, he started flexing. But before, I think everybody just kind of came in and it was just like the character is bigger than the actor. And so this is one of those times where the actor almost matches the character in different ways, but they're both on top. It isn't like, you know, an unknown person you kind of know or you kind of like goes in with this character you already know and you really like. Yeah. This is like a character we dig and a dude we dig. So this is the first time I ever saw it kind of even killed where, you know, because usually Marvel, they'll get the directors and writers that's not really known, you know, and then the IP blows them up, or the actor that's we kind of seen around. But, you know, Chris Evans has been around forever. You know, I liked him in different movies he was in. He's very charismatic, kind of smart butt guy, kind of like Ryan Reynolds before Ryan Reynolds to me. He's more of that kind of likable guy that was kind of jokey in these situations, and the girls would like him and the guys would want to be him kind of thing. And so that's how these actors have been normally with the Marvel stuff. It hasn't really been big actors that was just kind of like, you know, matching, like I said, characters big like that. It was always the characters that kind of made the actor. And like I said, this was different. And it even made me kind of wonder, like, up until that point, it seemed like everything is really tight with Kevin Feige and Marvel and the way things were laid out and planned. You know, I wonder if this throws anything off because everything was such a tight schedule. And then you got like this big IP that you might not have been doing anything big with it. Because I remember Wesley was talking about trying to get it. kind of bringing it back up, and there's people like doing little campaigns and saying stuff like, hey, we want Wesley back and all this other kind of stuff. And it was seeming like, well, maybe we could kind of push this over the line, almost like the stuff that happened with the release of Snyder Cut situation, where if enough people was talking, maybe the higher ups will be like, let's just go for it. Like maybe give him a Blade 4 to finish out his series, or redo the Blade 3 over again in with a better movie. Fingers crossed.
This Blade 3 slander is just...
It's deserved. But anyway... And so even me, I was kind of thinking like maybe this could really go, because he was really kind of going back on there talking about he wouldn't be, mad about revisiting the character and stuff like that. So it's all this talk and teases and stuff. So I was thinking like, are they really talking behind the scenes? Because sometimes the stuff you see promoted on stuff, especially when it comes to actors and folks like that and directors and stuff, when they start kind of teasing, usually it's just they just testing the waters for something that they already kind of decided to do, and they just kind of testing it out. So I thought like an announcement would be that he's going to come back, because Wesley still looks good. He still got it, And so I was kind of thinking like, well, maybe they'll be able to do something with that or end it out nicely. And then I didn't hear anything. And then I heard later on about Mahershala, and I was like, oh, okay. But like I said, my thing was like, I wonder what he's going to bring to it. Not him as an actor, because I know he's a great actor, but I'm talking about like what angle are they going to have with Blade that's not going to step on the toes of the previous versions. Not that it has to worry about that, because this is a whole different thing. And I think also, I don't even know if the new Blade movie is going to even be rated R. That's in question too.
Yeah. So when they came down to the details that we know from spots of different interviews and other things, was that Feige was intending for this to be a PG-13 film.
Right.
So that was red flag number one that they said apparently the director had. And the second thing, which was a Mahershala issue and / the original director, where the rub was they only had a 90-minute script,
which is ridiculous.
Or 90-page script.
90 page, which equals 90 minutes.
Yeah. And so, and then there's, which is very short, considering what, this type of storyline, with only 2 action sequences.
Yep.
So the concept of you trying to put together something like, think about how Blade just opens up with action, And so it's like, that's not what Mahershala signed up for. He's looking to do Wesley proud, and they're looking to do Moon Knight. They're looking to say, okay, how could we possibly make this Disney Plus friendly? Like, they're thinking about how do they package this all in. And I think if I had just my speculation, I think Mahershala as an artist, as someone who's getting new into, putting his fingers in the water, his toe in the water when it comes to producing and directing and doing some things behind the scenes as well.
Right.
I think he's taken his brand more serious. And I think he took on the project, not even thinking about the canon, like the comic book canon, but thinking about the movie trilogy that was before, which I think is the unique thing about Blade, that nothing else within Marvel can really compare to everything else. Iron Man, Avengers, you got to go back to the comic book canon, and that's what puts butts in the seats.
Right.
This is the first time that they would be trying to produce something, and it's solely based off what was already done that already put butts in the seat. So now this is a whole different game. And I think when you have a serious actor who has a serious brand and has associated himself with it, I don't think he's going to back down. But I also think that he has enough cachet. Like, I think he has enough to make Feige or someone take a step back and say, okay, we'll try it your way. Let's find a director, which also means serious rewrites, or if not, just an all new script.
Yeah, but like I said, this has been since 2019, so they've been had time to work on this script. But the thing is too, this wasn't the date that Feige had in mind for this situation. Like you said, I think that he thought it was going to be a children's party. Then he found out it was going to be an adult party at the last minute. It's like, well, you can't get away with just cookies and hot dogs and, and chips. We need some actual food. And so they had to scramble and try to figure out what's going on. But like I said, they're probably thinking more Moon Knight. Like I said, I think the whole thing just got thrown off. Like I said, I like the idea that he had the power to do that and wanted to do that. but that wasn't even like a priority to Marvel like that. It was one of those things that, like I said, probably would have popped up on Disney Plus, like you said, and it just would have been a thing like the other TV show they had back in the day with Sticky Fingers, the dude from Onyx. He played Blade in the TV series.
Oh my God. I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I forgot all of, like, I do remember. Wow. How long ago was that? And that's not
at least 15 years, if more than that, probably. It's been a while.
I think it's Disney Plus is good to just add anything, and that's not on there. Like, did that only make it to a pilot or something?
No, it had a couple, like two seasons, maybe more.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Dude, that's crazy. Like,
that was a rough watch for me because it wasn't Wesley. It was just like, and I like the dude. I like Sticky Fingers. I like him, and he tried to have his own little thing to it, but it was just, like I said, we'll see what they make of this. But for it to go this long, for them just now to, they're supposed to start filming, this movie in November, and they're supposed to be pulling stuff together. So for it to get this far and get to the line to start filming, and then they, switch out the director and talk about rewrites and all this other kind of stuff, this is crazy.
Well, movies get made and get canned. Batgirl, just, completely made. Yeah. It just complete. I was listening to Kenya Barris talk to Jamel Hill earlier today, and he was talking about the amount of like movies that made it to pre-production, remakes, and other things that he wanted to do. So like he was talking about how surprised he was that Coming to America 2 even came out.
Yeah. Like
the whole entire time he was like, oh, this is never going to see the light of day. This is never going to see the light of day. And then boom, it came out and was like,
yeah, it shouldn't have came out in the light of day.
Some people, that's how people are with, when it comes to, it's the same effect. It's the same effect. It's like, I think there's going to be a group of people who won't want to support it and see it. But I do think what I don't want is this to be Morbius, right? Where it's way too much dialogue, or way too much, not even so much dialogue. The whole time you feel like I'm watching an Easter egg show. Like I'm watching this so that later on I can like come back to it as source material for something bigger that's going to happen in another universe or something. I feel like I was watching it for something else.
Yeah, like homework. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you tell me there's only 2 action scenes.
Exactly.
Like, I don't need Blade to be the setup for Wolverine or the setup for, Brother Voodoo or something like that. Like, which he wouldn't be the setup for them, but still, and I feel like that anytime you've got something where you're telling me Blade only has 2, just give us action. Let us see what it is. But it is interesting because we do have to give it breathing room to be a new Blade, because if it's action heavy, then we're going to accuse it of, being too much like the original and not its own movie.
Yeah, but you can't have like a supernatural superhero crime fighter that's not action. It's almost like defeats the purpose. It's like, I don't want to see Captain America doing taxes. My question is, how to get this far for it to get to the finish line almost, or the starting point, which is the finish line to start, filming, because it's supposed to film in November, come out next year, November, for it to get this far. Feige okaying it, producers think it's all right, the writer thinks it's all right, the director thinks it's all right, and then we get towards the end, and then the actor has a problem with it. Like, how did it get that far for it just to end like this? I'm glad that they're regrouping, but it seemed like it passed a lot of hands to get to that point for it to have that many problems. Obvious problems, especially talking about rewriting.
I think when it comes to Hollywood in general, I think a lot of things are announced as a way of saying like, hey, we've got a weak lineup, so here you go. Sort of like case in point, hey, we got a really weak lineup, so at the very last minute this year, grab Hugh and let's announce Deadpool 3. Yeah. Of course, we're not going to even work on this for another 2 years, but still, this isn't going to probably come out till 2024 maybe, or some sort of ridiculous. But it's sort of like, hey, if we're not doing the numbers, or we're not doing as well as we thought we would do, let's just toss something out there. And then sometimes you end up like we shouldn't know. And I think this is Marvel being the issue that we also have with Marvel right now is when it comes to movie houses, their fan base is a little bit too involved, and we have a little bit too much information.
Yeah.
And I think same issue with DC. We don't need to know these things. We don't need to know some of the stuff that we know. And whether a movie goes in a rewrite 50 different times, directors quit, whatever the holdup is for it, we shouldn't really be privileged to it. But that's part of them keeping keeping us addicted and keeping us in. I'm excited to be able to have this dialogue we're having right now.
Yeah.
Because it is cool to have that like amongst, from one fan to another. But
do you really think that the common folk really care about this kind of stuff, or really, I don't think they really follow it. I think it's just, geek behavior, stuff that or fandom. It's almost kind of like somebody who loves football and they know all the stats and stuff. Even have fantasy leagues on characters that's not even really, so the reason why I think they kind of stir the pot with this kind of stuff and kind of like it, even though we probably get on their nerves, but the reason why they like it, because we're the same ones that go see a movie 10 times in the theater back to back, and then buy the t-shirts and then buy the movie when it comes out digitally or on DVD or Blu-ray. And so it's almost like you want your dope fiends to be addicted.
Yeah.
So keep selling it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you feel, especially if you feel like, I've been following this since, they were writing it, I'm in on this. And it's like, yeah, that's cool and all. But, when it comes to something that I'll put you like this, no matter what rewrites happen, recasting, no matter what happens with this, it's not going to be the original Blade.
No way.
And in all fairness, the original Blade was one of the first times that it was the original Black Panther effect to some extent.
Yeah.
Where it was like, oh, we're going, like this segment of Black people are going because it's Wesley. Mm-hmm. And then there was a segment of geeks going because they understood, they knew it was this Marvel property. And that combination allowed it to do well. It still didn't do like great. It just did a lot better than anything Marvel had ever done.
Right.
I think it's celebrated more in retrospect than it really honestly was.
Yeah.
At the time, it was a whole lot better, but it was surprisingly good. But it's still at the end of the day, it was like, I think I still have the Blade. You know how you got DVDs, but they're not around anymore. I don't know where they are, but like I remember my mom buying me the Blade trilogy, like on DVD, like gave me the second. She was one of the last holdouts on Columbia House. Like she was still she actually paid for Columbia House. Like it was crazy. But she was like, yeah, she ordered me the Blade trilogy. And I remember she gave me that with the Afro Samurai box set for that one, that season they did. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking Blade 2 is great. Like just thinking like this is the best Blade to me. Blade 1 was just like, I fell asleep once or twice. But it was still really great. I'm with you, Blade 3. We're talking Blade right now, right?
Right.
And I'm embarrassed to tell you this. I never finished Blade 3.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say I thought you were gonna say you liked it. I'll be more insulted by you saying you liked it than you saying you're not finishing it. I can understand you not finishing it. That I can understand.
Finished it. We're sitting there talking about it, and I cannot front my friend. I did not finish Blade 3. Not because it was horrible. Probably because it was horrible, but not in an intentional, like I wasn't sitting there angry, like this is horrible. I think I fell asleep hard. Never, in years of owning this, never was like, let me pop Blade 3 back in. And
of course, right.
Not once. Not one time.
Yeah, it's that thing was breaking my heart. I was sitting there watching it. I was in denial, like this is not happening, right? Like thinking like, that's not funny. And why are they introducing these new kids in here? Is this supposed to be Blade like a visitor? What's going on? What's with the dialogue? What's with the Dracula with the gold chain? And it was crazy. It was crazy. It was a hot mess. we're going to stop this conversation here, but we're going to hit you back with another one soon. Thanks for listening, and please like and subscribe. Be sure to check out past and future episodes of this show, along with my other shows entitled The Movie Bench Quarterbacking Podcast and The J and Podcast, available now on all streaming platforms. Until next time, peace.